The Algebra of Wealth, a simple formula for financial security, by Scott Galloway. Introduction. Here is a staggering, sobering fact. For the first time in American history, a significant portion of the younger generation is on track to be less prosperous than their parents. Despite record levels of corporate profit and technological advancement, just 50% of Americans born in the 1980s are making more than their parents did at the same age. This is the lowest share ever recorded. Think about that. The fundamental promise of progress, the very engine of the American dream, that hard work leads to a better life, is sputtering. For millions, it has stalled completely. We find ourselves adrift in a new economic reality, a vast and turbulent ocean governed by forces that feel both invisible and overwhelmingly powerful. Modern capitalism has become a rapacious beast, a relentless machine with a genius for creating new anxieties, new needs, new problems that can only be solved by spending more money on bigger, better, shinier things. It's a system that, by its very design, seems to favor the established over the innovator, the wealthy over the hardworking, and cold capital over human labor. The result? A pervasive, gnawing sense of economic anxiety that has become the background noise of our lives. Every time you unlock your phone, you are bombarded by what Scott Galloway calls wealth porn, an endless stream of influencers flaunting simulated lives of impossible luxury, a constant nagging reminder not of what you've achieved, but of everything you haven't. This digital barrage creates a painful chasm between our reality and a fantasy world, leaving us feeling inadequate, resentful, and permanently stuck on a treadmill that just keeps accelerating. Is it any wonder that financial strain has become a moth to the flame of divorce, depression, and disability? Have you ever felt that pressure? That feeling that no matter how fast you run, the finish line of true financial security, a life of peace and choice, just keeps moving further and further away. What if I told you that this feeling isn't your fault? What if I told you that you've been sold a series of lies about how to win this game? Lies that are designed to keep you running on that treadmill forever? But what if there was another way, a map, a formula, a set of rules to navigate this system, not as a helpless victim, but as a savvy player who understands how the machine actually works? This isn't a fantasy about what the world should be. This is a practical guide to what the world is and how you can thrive within it. In this audio summary of the Algebra of Wealth, we will systematically dismantle the myths that keep you anxious and broke. We will illuminate a simple, elegant, four-part formula for achieving not just riches, which can be fleeting, but something far more profound and durable: economic security. This is the freedom from the corrosive stress of money, the power to choose how you live your life, and the resources to show up for the people you love, fully and without reservation. Our guide on this transformative journey is Scott Galloway, and you need to understand who he is. He's not just a professor of marketing at NYU's prestigious Stern School of Business. He's a man who has lived a dozen lives in the brutal arena of the modern economy. A serial entrepreneur who has founded 9 companies, the best-selling author of paradigm-shifting books like The Four and The Algebra of Happiness. But here's what makes him different. What makes his voice so essential right now. He isn't some trust fund guru preaching from an ivory tower. He has been in the trenches. He has felt the gut-wrenching nausea of failure, the shame of realizing he couldn't provide for his family in the way he'd always dreamed. He knows what it's like to lose a fortune and what it takes to build one back, piece by agonizing piece. His wisdom is not theoretical. It's forged in the fire of real-world success and devastating failure. In this audiobook summary, we will embark on an expedition into the heart of his groundbreaking work. We will uncover the 4 essential pillars of wealth creation: the ancient wisdom of Stoicism, the relentless power of focus, the unstoppable force of time, and the protective armor of diversification. We will learn why following your passion is a trap set by the rich to exploit the young. We will discover why your character, not your salary, is your greatest financial asset. And we will reveal how to make time your most powerful and loyal ally. This is not just about spreadsheets and stock tickers. This is a holistic, whole-person project for building a life that is not only financially secure, but deeply and truly rich. Are you ready to learn the algebra that unlocks that life? Let's begin the journey. The Grand Delusion, slaying the myth of the outlier. Let's start by taking a sledgehammer to the most seductive and destructive lie modern culture tells us about building wealth, the myth of the exceptional outlier. You know the stories. We're fed them constantly. There's Sean Carter, a high school dropout from the projects who transforms himself into the hip-hop billionaire Jay-Z. Or there's the quiet, unassuming janitor, Ronald Reed, who lives a frugal life and, upon his death, leaves behind a secret $8 million fortune meticulously grown from investing in blue-chip stocks. And of course, there's the Oracle of Omaha, Warren Buffett, the folk hero of finance who turned childhood lessons into a personal fortune of over $100 billion. We devour these stories, don't we? They are the stuff of modern legend. They give us a hit of hope, a feeling that we too are just one brilliant idea, one lucky break, one lottery ticket away from solving all our problems and living a life of effortless abundance. But here is the cold, hard, uncomfortable truth that Scott Galloway delivers like a splash of ice water on the very first page of his book. His number one piece of advice is this: you must assume from this moment forward that you are not Jay-Z, you are not Ronald Reed, and you are certainly not Warren Buffett. Why such a blunt, almost harsh declaration? Because, as Galloway brilliantly states, outliers make for great inspiration, but lousy role models. Their stories are a dangerously misleading cocktail. A potent mix of immense talent, yes, relentless hard work, absolutely. But most critically, a dose of pure, unadulterated random luck that you simply cannot replicate. To base your entire financial strategy on becoming an outlier is not a strategy at all. It's a fantasy. It's a swing for the fences approach to life. And what happens in baseball and in life when you swing for the fences with every single pitch? You strike out. Over and over and over again. This isn't just academic for Galloway. He lived this delusion. He spent his 20s and 30s, the most critical decades for wealth building, chasing that spectacular explosive home run. He was convinced he was exceptional, that a massive payday from one of his startups was just around the corner. He scoffed at the slow, boring, methodical work of saving and investing. He famously told a friend who was contributing to a retirement account, "If $2,000 matters to me when I'm 65, I'm going to put a gun in my mouth." That arrogance, that deep-seated belief in his own exceptionalism, was a cognitive trap. It led him down a path that was infinitely riskier, more stressful, and more emotionally volatile than it ever needed to be. And here we arrive at the first great aha moment of this entire audio summary. The reliable, durable, time-tested path to wealth is not a lightning strike. It is not an overnight explosion. Galloway is brutally honest about it. The bad news? The answer is slowly. The real path to wealth is the one tread by the millions of frugal janitors and prudent investors whose names we'll never know. Their journey wasn't explosive, it was consistent. It wasn't sexy, it was disciplined. It's about understanding that wealth isn't an event you hope for. It's the outcome of a formula you live by. And the very first variable in that powerful formula has almost nothing to do with your bank account. It has everything to do with what's between your ears. The unseen engine, Stoicism, and the character-behavior loop. What was it that truly kept a smart, ambitious man like Scott Galloway from achieving economic security for so much of his life? Was it a lack of knowledge? No. He had an MBA from Berkeley. He had successfully raised tens of millions of dollars in capital for his companies. He understood the language of money intimately. And yet, for years, he wasn't any good at it. Have you ever felt that way? You know what you should be doing, saving more, spending less, investing for the future, but there's a frustrating gap between your intentions and your actions. Here's the thing, you are not alone in that struggle. A fascinating study of UK consumers revealed something profound. While a lack of financial literacy did contribute to people falling into overwhelming debt, there was another factor that played a much stronger role. And what was it? A simple lack of self-control. This leads us to the absolute bedrock of Galloway's entire philosophy, the foundation upon which the whole algebra of wealth is built. Economic security is not the product of an intellectual exercise. You cannot think your way to wealth. It is the result of a pattern of behavior, repeated over time. But here's the crucial catch, the piece of the puzzle that most financial advice completely ignores. You cannot simply decide to have better behavior, not for the long haul. Trying to use pure willpower to resist temptation is like trying to hold your breath underwater. Sooner or later, your lungs will burn, and you will have to gasp for air. That white-knuckled grip of constant self-denial is utterly exhausting, and it is doomed to fail. So, what is the secret sauce? How do some people manage to consistently align their day-to-day actions with their long-term goals, year after year, decade after decade? Galloway's answer is a single powerful word: character. Now follow this line of reasoning, because it is one of the most important concepts in the entire book. Character and behavior are not separate things. They exist in a dynamic, self-reinforcing cycle. Imagine a massive, heavy flywheel. Your character is that flywheel. At first, it's stationary and hard to move. But every time you make a conscious choice to engage in a positive behavior, saving that extra $50, going to the gym when you don't feel like it, resisting that impulse purchase, you give that heavy flywheel a small, determined push. It barely moves. But you do it again and again. Each push is a little easier than the last as the wheel begins to gather momentum. Over time, that flywheel starts spinning with a powerful, unstoppable force of its own. Your good behavior becomes easier, more automatic, because your character, the flywheel, is now working with you, not against you. This is the virtuous circle. But be warned, the opposite is also true. Every poor choice, every capitulation to impulse, pushes the flywheel in the other direction, creating a destructive spiral that can be just as hard to escape. The choice of direction is always yours. To power this flywheel, Galloway introduces an ancient operating system for the chaos of the modern world: Stoicism. Now let's be clear. This is not about being a robot, devoid of emotion. Stoicism, which flourished in ancient Greece and Rome, is a practical philosophy that sees the development of one's character as the highest possible virtue. It provides a mental toolkit for living an intentional, temperate, and resilient life. The Stoics identified 4 cardinal virtues that act as the legs of the table, the pillars of a strong character. First is courage. In modern terms, we call this grit or persistence. It's the strength to guide your actions by your values, not by your fears. The fear of poverty, the fear of embarrassment, the fear of failure. Second is wisdom. Epictetus described this as the ability to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are external and not under my control, and which have to do with the choices I actually control. It's the profound peace that comes from accepting reality and focusing your energy only on what you can change. Third is justice. This is the recognition that we are not islands. We are all interdependent. It's about acting with honesty and considering the consequences of our actions on the wider community. And finally, there is temperance. In our modern world, this is arguably the most critical and most tested virtue of all. Our entire capitalist system is fueled by our lack of self-control, our obsession with status, and our endless consumption. Temperance is the shield against this onslaught. It is the quiet management of all our indulgences. So how do you begin to build this? Where do you place the first brick? It's simpler than you imagine. You start by slowing down. The psychologist Viktor Frankl observed, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. Your task is to find that space. Just once or twice a day, in the middle of your 100 reactive decisions, find that tiny gap in time. Before you fire off that angry reply to a colleague, before you click buy now on something you don't need, just pause. In that pause, simply tell yourself, I control this. My response is my choice. Every time you successfully do that, you are giving the flywheel a powerful push. You are not just changing a behavior, you are forging character. And that character is the only impenetrable fortress against the chaos of the world and the weaknesses within ourselves. Hey there, do you like this audio summary? Then take 2 seconds of your time and click on subscribe to the channel and activate notifications. With this simple action, you will receive many more free high-quality summaries every single week. You can also send us your appreciation with a simple like on this video. Thank you, and let's go on. Welcome back. In the first part of this audiobook summary of the Algebra of Wealth, we laid the essential foundation. We tore down the dangerous myths of the outlier and the overnight success. And we discovered that the bedrock of all lasting wealth isn't a stock tip or a business idea, but the deliberate construction of character through the timeless principles of Stoicism. Now, we pivot. We move from the internal world of who you are to the external world of what you do. We are diving headfirst into the second, and perhaps most actionable, pillar of Scott Galloway's powerful formula: focus. This, my friends, is where the rubber truly meets the road. This is about your career, your work, and the engine that will generate the fuel for your wealth-building journey. The Great Passion Deception: how society's favorite advice keeps you poor. Follow your passion. Think about that phrase. It's the most popular piece of career advice on the planet. It's whispered by guidance counselors, shouted from graduation podiums, and emblazoned on inspirational posters in sterile office buildings. It sounds so right, so noble, so pure. And Scott Galloway is here to tell you that it is a dangerous, insidious lie. It is, in fact, the single worst piece of career advice you will ever receive in your life. He puts it bluntly: if someone is telling you to follow your passion, it means they are already rich, and you can bet they almost certainly made their vast fortune in a deeply unglamorous, passionless industry like municipal bonds, or, as he says, iron ore smelting. So why is this seemingly beautiful advice so toxic? Let's dissect this grand illusion, this trap that society sets for the young and the ambitious. First, the simple practical reality is that most of us don't have a singular, all-consuming passion waiting to be discovered. The data is clear. One Stanford psychologist, William Damon, found that a staggering 80% of people under the age of 26 cannot articulate a passion that is strong enough to guide their life choices. For 4 out of 5 young people, being told to follow your passion is like being told to follow a ghost. It's not just unhelpful, it's a recipe for anxiety and paralysis. What's wrong with me? Why don't I have a passion? And here's the thing, even for the 20% who think they have a passion, further research shows that this passion is often not some deep, innate calling from the soul. Instead, it's a highly malleable preference, easily influenced by cultural trends, the expectations of our peers, or something as trivial as how a classroom is decorated. It's a shocking realization, isn't it? Second, and this is where the trap snaps shut, passion careers are by their very nature a terrible economic proposition. Think about it. Which careers are people most passionate about? Acting, music, fashion, sports, journalism, working for a nonprofit. These are fields where the supply of eager, bright-eyed, passionate workers massively exceeds the available demand. And what happens in any market where supply overwhelms demand? The price collapses. In this case, the price is your salary and your dignity. This creates a power dynamic ripe for exploitation. Do you know why a multi-billion-dollar luxury brand like Chanel could get away with having unpaid interns? Because for every person who said no, there were 100 others, blinded by passion, lining up to take their place. Galloway's translation is as brutal as it is true. Follow your passion is Latin for prepare to be exploited. Finally, the ultimate irony is that even if you beat the incredible odds and manage to turn your passion into a job, the job will likely kill the passion. Work is hard. It's filled with deadlines, disappointments, compromises, and colleagues you don't like. The writer Morgan Housel put it perfectly. Doing something you love on a schedule you can't control can feel the same as doing something you hate. The very act of monetizing your passion can strip it of the joy and freedom that made you love it in the first place. So if follow your passion is the great deception, what is the truth? What is the real actionable path forward? Are you ready for the easy way out of this trap? It's a simple, two-word command. Follow your talent. Your mission is not to find a job that fills you with joy from day one. That's a child's fantasy. Your mission is to identify something you are naturally good at, and then apply the thousands of hours of grit, focus, and sacrifice necessary to become undeniably great at it. And here is the magic, the alchemical reaction that this book reveals. As you ascend the mountain of mastery, a funny thing starts to happen. The respect you gain from your peers, the economic rewards that start to flow, the deep and profound satisfaction of executing a difficult craft at an elite level. That feeling, that is what becomes true, durable, adult passion. Passion isn't the cause of a great career. It is the glorious, hard-won result of one. The Quest for Your Superpower, a practical guide to finding your talent. So our new mission is crystal clear. We must embark on a quest to find our unique talent. But what are we looking for? How do we identify this superpower? Galloway offers a definition that is both brilliantly simple and incredibly profound. Your talent is this. What comes easily to you that is difficult for other people? Forget the narrow, conventional ideas of talent, like playing an instrument or being a math genius. We need to think much, much bigger. Galloway tells the story of one of the first people he ever hired, a woman named Connie Hallquist. She had been a French scholar, a professional tennis player, and a currency trader. But her true world-class talent, which she only discovered at Galloway's firm, was managing people. She had an almost magical ability to assemble a team, create a plan, and drive everyone toward a common goal with ruthless efficiency. This amorphous skill, managing people, is arguably one of the most valuable talents a person can possess, yet it's not something they test you for in school. Consider another example. Scott Harrison, the founder of the incredible nonprofit, charity, Water. Before he was bringing clean water to millions, what was his job? He was a top New York City club promoter. And what was his talent? He was, in a word, cool. He was a master connector, a social architect. When he decided he wanted his life to have a deeper meaning, he didn't try to become a water engineer. He leveraged his unique talent. He built the massive donor network for his charity, using the exact same skills he used to build the exclusive guest list for a downtown nightclub. That's the key. So what's your talent? Is it an uncanny ability to endure pain and work long hours, as Galloway discovered was his edge at Morgan Stanley? Is it your boundless curiosity, your patience, your empathy? For a wrestler, the ability to make weight is a talent. The point is to cast a wide, imaginative net. Consider not just your skills, but your unique advantages, your personality quirks, your differences, what you can tolerate that drives others crazy. This requires time, it requires experimentation, and it requires deep self-reflection. So how do you begin this quest in a practical way? Galloway is clear. You must escape the classroom. The educational system is designed to test a very narrow slice of human abilities. You have to put yourself in different contexts to see what emerges. Your 20s, he argues, should be a period of intense workshopping. Get a job. Volunteer for a cause you care about. Join a sports team. Try to lead a project. Start a tiny side business. Most importantly, pay attention to the data. What are you praised for? What feels energizing, even when it's hard? And just as critically, what are you terrible at? Figuring out what you're not good at is an essential part of figuring out what you are. Here are 2 powerful, actionable exercises you can do right now. First, ask the people who know you best and whose opinions you trust. What do you think I'm uniquely good at? You might be surprised by the answers. We are often blind to our own greatest strengths because they feel so natural to us. Second, perform an autopsy on your past successes and failures, no matter how small. Think of a time you succeeded at something. Don't just celebrate the win, disarticulate it. Break it down into the component skills. Was it your strategic thinking? Your ability to persuade others? Your meticulous organization? Your creative problem solving? Do the same for a failure. Where did the breakdown occur? Be honest with yourself. This process of rigorous self-analysis is how you move from a vague hope to a data-driven understanding of your personal arsenal. But there's a warning here. It can be painful to accept that our talents may not align with our ambitions. You might want to be the strategy guy, but discover you're a numbers guy. It can be hard to let go of the identity you thought you wanted. But embracing the talent you have, rather than chasing the one you wish you had, is the pivot point upon which a truly successful and passionate career is built. This quest isn't just a career strategy. It's the profound journey of discovering your authentic power in the world. Welcome to the final and most crucial part of our extensive journey through Scott Galloway's The Algebra of Wealth. We have built our internal fortress on the bedrock of Stoic character. We have aimed our professional lives like a laser by focusing on our unique talents, not our fleeting passions. Now, we arrive at the engine room of the wealth creation machine. This is where we take the income we have worked so hard to generate and transform it into capital. An army of money that works for us around the clock while we sleep. We are about to unlock the 2 final and most powerful pillars of the formula, the unstoppable force of time and the protective armor of diversification. This is where we learn to speak the native language of capitalism and make its most formidable powers serve our own ends. Time, the universe's ultimate weapon, and how to make it yours. The American poet Delmore Schwartz once wrote, "Time is the fire in which we burn." It is a dark and beautiful line that captures the relentless, consuming nature of our most precious and finite resource. Time is the one asset we are all given in equal measure at birth, and the one we can never, ever get back. But here is the secret that the young so rarely understand and the old so deeply regret. Time is not just a fire, it is also a weapon. And if you are in your 20s or 30s, you are richer in this strategic asset than any billionaire on earth. Your ability to comprehend and wield the power of time and patience is the fundamental delta between a life spent merely making a living and a life spent building lasting generational wealth. At the very heart of this immense power lies a mathematical principle so profound that Albert Einstein is said to have called it the 8th wonder of the world: compound interest. The concept is simple, but its long-term effects are nothing short of miraculous. Let's make it tangible. Imagine you invest a sum of $10,000 at an 8% annual return. After 1 year, you have $10,800, straightforward enough. But in the second year, the magic begins. You don't just earn another $800. You earn 8% on your original $10,000, and you earn 8% on the $800 of profit from the previous year. It's a small difference at first, just an extra $64. It is, as Galloway says, an acorn. But you plant that acorn, and you wait. After 30 years of this relentless, patient compounding, that initial $10,000 has grown to over $100,000. Without compounding, it would be a mere $34,000. That single acorn, given enough time, has grown into a mighty, sprawling oak tree. Now, are you ready for a calculation from the book so mind-blowing it should be taught in every high school in America? If you were to invest just $12,000 a year or $1,000 a month starting at age 25, and you did it for only 10 years until age 35, and then you never invested another penny, that money, left alone to compound, would grow to an astonishing $2.5 million by the time you turned 65. But now, consider this. What if you wait? What if you start the exact same investment plan, $12,000 a year for 10 years, but you begin at age 45 instead of 25? At age 65, you would have only $500,000. That is the staggering, almost unbelievable, and fundamentally unfair power of time. It is the reason why the legendary investor Warren Buffett accrued 99% of his total net worth after his 52nd birthday. The lesson is inescapable. The best time to plant a tree was 2 decades ago. The second best time is this very moment. But just as there is a hero in this story, there is also a villain. Compound interest has an evil twin: inflation. Inflation is a silent, invisible thief. It is a rodent constantly gnawing at the foundations of your wealth, a rising tide that never, ever ebbs. With a modest average inflation rate of 3%, the money you have today will lose more than half of its purchasing power in just 24 years. This means that any cash you are holding, any money sitting safely in a low-interest checking account, is not safe at all. It is a melting ice cube. It is a guaranteed loss. You cannot hide from this villain. You can only outrun it. You must invest your capital in assets that will grow faster than inflation eats away at their value. This is the race that you are in every single day, whether you realize it or not. So, how do you manage this incredible asset of time and defeat its villainous twin? Galloway proposes a brilliantly simple framework he calls the 3 buckets. Imagine your after-tax income flows from a single tap. All of that water must be consciously allocated into 3 distinct buckets. Bucket number 1 is your day-to-day consumption. This is your life right now. Your rent or mortgage, your groceries, your utility bills, your dinners out with friends, your Netflix subscription. The money that goes into this bucket is consumed. Once you spend it, it is gone forever. Bucket number 2 is your intermediate spending. This is for large planned expenses that you anticipate in the next 1 to 10 years. A down payment on a home is the classic example, but it could also be tuition for graduate school, a wedding, or a new car. Bucket number 3 is your long-term investments. This is the holy grail. This is your wealth-building engine. This is the capital you will not touch for decades. This is the money that will buy your future freedom from financial anxiety. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is simple in theory, but challenging in practice. First, you must get your head above water, ensuring your income is consistently greater than the needs of your consumption bucket. Then, for every single dollar you earn above that waterline, you must make a conscious, deliberate choice. You must wage a quiet, daily war against the insidious force of lifestyle creep, ensuring that your spending grows at a much slower rate than your income. That growing delta, that surplus between what you earn and what you consume, is the water you will use to strategically fill your intermediate and long-term buckets. That delta is the very foundation upon which your entire financial fortress will be built. Diversification and the final boss. Your armor and your sword. You've done the hard work. You've generated a surplus. You have capital ready to deploy into your long-term bucket. Now comes the multi-trillion-dollar question. Where exactly do you put it? This brings us to the final and most protective pillar of the formula. Diversification. If time is your ultimate weapon, diversification is your impenetrable armor. It is the Kevlar vest that allows you to survive the inevitable battles of investing long enough to win the war. Why is it so crucial? Because the world of investing has a fundamental, brutal asymmetry. You can absorb an infinite amount of upside, but you simply cannot come back from an investment that goes to zero. Diversification is your shield against catastrophic failure. Galloway, like many, had to learn this lesson through the pain of experience. He was once so over-concentrated in the stock of his own company, Red Envelope, that when it went bankrupt, he lost 70% of his net worth. All his eggs were in one basket, and the basket shattered. Later in his career, he made what he calls the worst investment decision of his life, selling his large stake in Netflix far too early. For years, he felt physically ill watching the stock price climb to astronomical heights. But this time, the mistake was just a painful blow, not a fatal one. Why? He was wearing his Kevlar. His portfolio was diversified across other great companies like Apple and Amazon, which also soared during that period. He had spread his risk. And this leads us to what is perhaps the most important, and for many, the most liberating secret of the entire financial world. It's a truth so powerful that Warren Buffett famously bet a team of high-paid hedge fund managers $1 million on it. A bet he won by a landslide. The secret is this: over any meaningful long-term period, almost nobody, not the talking heads on TV, not the Wall Street gurus, not the hotshot fund managers, can consistently beat the overall market average. In the last 2 decades, an incredible 94% of all large-cap active fund managers in the US were outperformed by a simple, boring, passive investment in the S&P 500 index. What does this profound truth mean for you? It means you should immediately abandon any fantasy of being a stock-picking genius. It's a fool's errand. The easiest, most effective, and most historically proven path to building long-term wealth is to stop trying to be clever and simply buy the entire market. For the vast majority of your long-term investment bucket, the answer is stunningly simple. Invest in low-cost, broadly diversified exchange-traded funds, or ETFs. An ETF is like a basket that you can buy with a single stock purchase, but inside that basket are tiny pieces of hundreds or even thousands of the world's best companies, automatically diversifying your risk for you. This leads to Galloway's simple 3-step plan for what he calls capitalism on autopilot. Open an investment account with an established, reputable, low-fee brokerage firm like Fidelity, Schwab, or Vanguard. Invest the vast majority of your long-term capital into a handful of low-cost, diversified ETFs that give you exposure to US and global stocks, like a total stock market or S&P 500 ETF. Continue to add capital to these funds, consistently and patiently, and then get out of the way. Let time and the unstoppable force of compounding do all the heavy lifting for you. Now, with this armor of diversification in place, you are ready to face the final boss of the game, the taxman. Your relationship with the IRS will be conflicted. You have a patriotic duty to pay your taxes, but you also have a duty to your family to pay the absolute minimum that is legally required. The single most powerful tax strategy is timing. $1 in tax paid today is far more expensive than $1 paid in the future because of the lost opportunity for compounding. This is the sheer genius of tax-deferred retirement accounts like a traditional 401k or IRA. They allow you to defer your tax burden for decades, letting your entire contribution grow unhindered. And if your employer offers a matching contribution? Galloway is emphatic. That is a 100% guaranteed, tax-deferred return on your money. It is the best investment you will ever be offered. You must, under almost any circumstance, contribute enough to get that full match. We've covered a vast territory on this journey, the algebra of wealth, focus, multiplied by the powerful combination of Stoicism, time, and diversification. But the final question remains: what is it all for? Why embark on this challenging path? Galloway concludes his masterpiece with a story that brings the entire equation into sharp, poignant focus. In the final week of his mother's life, as she battled cancer, she would shiver uncontrollably with a cold that no blanket could warm. In a moment of pure instinct, he held her in his arms, as a father would hold a small child. And her shivers stopped. In that moment, he writes, "The success and relevance I had been chasing for so long had meaning. I was a man people could depend on." His ability to be there, to take time off work, to afford his mother the dignity of dying at home surrounded by love, was made possible by his economic security. That is the whole shooting match. Everything meaningful in life is about others. The purpose of this algebra is not just to build a number in a bank account. It is to build a life of freedom, choice, and presence. It is to give you the resources, the time, and the emotional bandwidth to show up for the people you love in the moments that matter most. This is the formula that allows you to invest in the only portfolio that offers truly infinite returns: your relationships with other human beings. This has been an audio summary of The Algebra of Wealth by Scott Galloway. If these ideas have sparked a fire in you, I wholeheartedly encourage you to pick up the book itself. There is a depth of wisdom, detail, and guidance within its pages that we could only begin to touch on here. Don't let this be the end of your exploration. Continue your journey of growth. Life is so rich,